inspirational reading today is from the book Jesus Love. This is a book that is part of the Brotherhood of the Followers of the Present Jesus, which is an anonymous group. And they channel through Jesus, the present day Jesus. And Jesus says on page 23, remember, you who measure and belittle because you do not know any better, that which you measure and belittle is so radiantly beautiful on the other side of its nature that if you could but see it, you would bow before its loveliness. If you could but open your eyes to the other side of everything, the silent side, the inner side, the shadowed side, the light side, anything that would let you know that it is the side that is not seen with the physical eyes, nor is it perceived with the mental perception which is pointed toward the physical. The beauty of each of you, the radiance, but know it is there. Try to sense it. For you must try to become, each of you, more aware of your beauty, more aware of the beauty of all that you are and all that you do and say and think. For you do create so much beauty that you are not even aware of. And so many lovely fragrances and waves of thought and of love and of feeling go forth from you that you do not even know, and that others miss, and that you miss in others. Become quiet. Tune in on beauty by knowing it is there. Find it in a small smile, in a little twinkle, in a tiny graceful movement. Learn to look for it, that you may not miss it. For life holds for you millions of times the richness and the joy that you perceive from it. And you walk through this physical world, as it were, with your eyes so clearly closed. But the beauty of which I speak shines forth from the inner center. If you would take the time, if you would pick a flower and try to see through the outer beauty to the inner, try it. Or if you would look upon a leaf or a blade of grass and give yourselves time to tune in on the beauty within it, shining forth from the inside of it, the spirit beauty. Thank you, Jesus. And now a beautiful Christ being who's an assistant minister here at the Teaching of the Inner Christ. She is also a teacher. She has been a teacher. And she is currently a teacher at the Teaching of the Inner Christ. She is a creator. She's very creative. She's an artist. And she's an animal lover. And so it is my honor to introduce her, speaking on loving the Christ that is autumn. Please welcome with me Reverend Elaine Fuller-Zachey.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes.
Well, loving the Christ that is autumn. Autumn. According to Webster's 7th New Collegiate Dictionary, is the season between summer and winter. Okay? Comprising in the northern hemisphere, usually the months of September, October, and November, or, as reckoned, astronomically extending from the September equinox to the December solstice, a time of maturity. Maturity, yeah. I'll go for that. Yeah, I mean, I'm 78. I'm maturity, and I'm in personified, I guess. Well, the lax stuckness of summer has no choice but to make way for the silvery coolness of autumn. As Jesus himself seemingly died at the height of his power into glory and more power, so does Indian summer release its final grip and then enter into the glory of autumn. We can all agree that summer has been hot this year, and extra hot. I've resorted to fans and occasionally air conditioning to alleviate excess heat and its fatigue. It's helped, and so have visits to my nearby air-conditioned library, yay, where I can write talks and prepare lessons to present to intersensitivity classes. Now, however, it's time for a change. Autumn. Autumn is a dramatically changing season, right? We know that. I love to paint its brightly colored, sometimes brittle leaves. Their vivid red into yellows capture me, and I wonder, how could anyone not love this time of year? All the colors, right? The energy. Autumn air feels electrically energized. Its almost damp coolness lays on top of the land, just absorbing hot excesses and reviving, energizing people and animals. It's as though my eyes open wider to see the intensity that I feel. It's life-changing, change into newly heightened, colorful energy, dramatically powerful season. It speaks of a renewal to come, a dying into new life, right? After winter spring, after winter sleep into spring, right? The last few years of Jesus Christ were powerful into the autumn around his dying, then transition into his new life. He taught and teaches now in Christ-like humility and inner guidance, including releasing the old for the new, such as mental openness to learn, persistence in perfection and affirming perfection, inner recognition of divinity and sending healing love. Moving forward in faith to follow our true desires, in faith and in trust of God. TIC embraces those today. Also, Jesus healed when he applied mud to a blind man's eyes, to heal him, to heal his eyes. The man washed it off as Jesus directed, and he could see. People who had known him before were really surprised, and this man was joyful. Jesus also predicted to his disciples that they would scatter at the time of his crucifixion. And they did just that. They left. They reassembled shortly thereafter. After Jesus endured trial and crucifixion, Mary Magdalene found the stone entrance to his grave rolled away. She found an angel inside. Angel said, "He's not here." Mary was crying. She had lost her master, her teacher, the one she loved. She stood near the tomb crying, and risen Jesus said to her, "Woman, why do you weep?" She didn't know who he was at first, but then she turned around. It was Jesus. He told her to inform the disciples that he had risen from seeming death, And then he appeared to them later to instruct them to go and spread his teaching. And they did. It's the rising, the spring of Jesus Christ's teaching. From his seeming death into revival, spring. And we do this too in the right way for each of us. Jesus' teachings and crucifixion were, like I said, his autumn interest into the continuation of his ministry, and our participation in teaching of the inner Christ, or TIC, is our own way of loving the Christ that is autumn into spring. Okay? And we do participate in our own way. During autumn, I think of beautiful leaves and Halloween costumes and candy. You know, it's a fun part, isn't it? Huh? Once a friend in New York State sent me a big box, like this big, of brightly colored leaves from her yard. Wow. Oh, they were beautiful. It was such a surprise. I looked at them for days. I opened the box and I left it in a room and I would just go look at it. It's just beautiful, beautiful. And then they started to fade because, you know, leaves do that, right? So I put them in the garden as a mulch. Right? Change. Now I go to Julian to get apples, pears, and slices of apple pies from Mom's restaurant and see the leaves. I love to go around and look into the little shops and see what they offer. Sometimes I can pick up some really different items to use in art. Not very often, but sometimes they have something that I really can use. So, this is my loving of nature, you know, autumn. And relaxing in Julian like this is part of my own spiritual evolvement. It just is. It's loving God through autumn and Julian, you know, loving Christ. And Christ means God made manifest. Right? It's here as life, according to the TIC founder Ann Meyer McKeever. So, my love of autumn is my love of vibrant life expression. How can God create something that is so beautiful? How can God create all this color, this energy? How can I be so in love with this time of year? Do you love autumn or fall? Do you love this time of year? Is it one of your favorite times of year? If so, then why? Would you like to tell us a little bit about it? Yeah? Autumn? Anyone? Yes, Henry, please.
Growing up in central Nebraska, I liked harvest.
Pardon?
Harvest.
Oh, harvest. Yeah, that's wonderful, isn't it? What do you see as wonderful about the harvest?
Food.
Food, yay, okay. All right. Oh. So, sometimes people sell their garden treasures, their harvest, their food, at little stands in front of their homes. You know? If they sell, what do they sell? Summer squash, like the yellow squash and the zucchini. They sell tomatoes, and sometimes they have tomatoes that are those little teeny yellow ones to big purple looking ones, the round, and they seem like they're this big, but they're not. They weigh a pound or over, sometimes close to 2 pounds each. And they're all just wonderful. It's great. So, garden and food, and anyone else have something that they love? Yes, please.
I thought of something. Autumn always reminds me of my mother. partly because she was so fond of the autumn colors. And she grew up in Illinois, and she did a painting years ago, watercolor, of two girls, presumably her and her sister, out in the yard, and it kind of resembles what I remember about my grandparents' house in Illinois. And the two girls are raking up leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up with that particular painting, and I put it up every November.
Uh-huh. How
So it just
wonderful.
reminds me of my mom. And she wrote it, I think she wrote a lot of poems about autumn.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Uh-huh. Thank you for sharing that, yeah. So autumn is magic. The colored leaves, the food. Halloween, huh? No. So it's all just beautiful and wonderful, and Halloween was a little bit more about that. I love the costumes of the little kids. You know, they're just, little girls still like to be princesses, sometimes. And little boys, sometimes they like to be Darth Vader from Star Wars. He's a fun character, you know. So, and they go to malls now where they can trick or treat with, and get bags filled with candy, and it's just wonderful. You know, the little bars and stuff that you get from Costco, throw them in the bags, it's wonderful. And I just share their enthusiasm. There's so much. It's all God's abundance. It really is. It's all God's abundance. So when we love it, autumn, all the parts of beautiful autumn, remember that we are loving God made manifest. God made manifest is Christ. And when we love it, when we love this time of year, we are loving the Christ that is autumn. So, happy loving, happy autumn, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Reverend Elaine. Gives me a happy feeling thinking about autumn. And now we get to feel happy about giving
Eat afterwards, huh?
our offering of tithes and gifts. It ought to make us feel ecstatic, because it represents all that we have received, and out of a fullness of a heart, we get to give to God. We get to. And so, let's say the blessing of the offering together on page 12 of your program. Let us glory in the abundance of God in autumn and all seasons, and in the abundance we share with TIC. And I call upon, and for those of you who are in the internet audience, if you have found value in today's service, we invite you to assist in supporting the teaching of the inner Christ as you are led by visiting our website at teachingoftheinnerchrist.org with your donation. And we know that you found value today. We trust completely what Jesus promised us in Luke chapter 6, verse 38. Give, and it will be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put in your lap. For with the measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. Thank you very much.